Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wishing you an enjoyable listening experience. Today, the book we're discussing is Future Humans. Despite its title suggesting a sci-fi envisioning of the future world, it's actually a popular science book in the field of biological evolution. It tackles the question, what factors influence human evolution? The author of this book is Scott Solomon, a biologist and popular science writer. He has long been engaged in evolutionary biology research at the Department of Biology at Rice University. His insights in this book are drawn from interviews with various anthropologists, biologists, geneticists, doctors, and psychologists who are involved in related research. Regarding human evolution, there are currently two opposing viewpoints. Some believe that evolution is a biological term spanning millions of years, a slow and gradual process. However, others argue that since the earliest humans appeared around 160,000 years ago, human evolution has shown an acceleration, especially in recent centuries. Our biomedical technology has made unprecedented advancements, seemingly endowing humans with limitless capabilities. Vaccines have eradicated many infectious diseases in their infancy. Genetic technology has provided us with a key to unlock the door of life. With this momentum, humans might soon reach the culmination of evolution. Is humanity still evolving? The book's answer is affirmative. However, it posits that what truly warrants our attention is how humans will evolve. In other words, from a biological perspective, what changes might occur in the future for this species? To delve into this query, Solomon interviewed numerous anthropologists, biologists, geneticists, doctors, and psychologists engaged in research related to future humans. At the outset of the book, the author offers this insight: our species has never stopped evolving, and we've entered a new phase in our evolutionary history, one that makes our future more interesting but also unprecedentedly difficult to predict. While the book doesn't provide a definitive answer to the outcomes of future human evolution, the author analyzes various elements that influence it. Traditional factors like infectious diseases and environmentally induced genetic mutations from the natural environment still play fundamental roles. However, societal and cultural influences on human evolution have become increasingly evident with the elongation of human lifespans, changes in dietary habits, the use of medications and contraceptive measures, widespread education, and the popularity of online dating. Let's not overlook the myriad of microorganisms coexisting within the human body, quietly exerting their influence on human evolution. Next, following the author's lead, we'll explore the three major elements influencing human evolution: the natural environment, societal culture, and the microbial community within the human body. Part 1. The natural environment serves as a foundational factor influencing human evolution. Infectious diseases play a pivotal role. The author straightforwardly states, infectious diseases have been the most significant driving force in our evolutionary history, and we have every reason to believe they continue to play a crucial role in the future evolution of our species. Some infectious diseases have been alongside us for tens of thousands of years. For instance, the history of malaria causing human fatalities can be traced back to 160,000 years ago, the dawn of the human species. Let's take malaria as an example to see how infectious diseases impact human evolution. In the mid-20th century, a medical graduate named Anthony Allison participated in research in Kenya, Africa. Allison's task was to collect blood samples from local residents. He discovered sickle-shaped red blood cells in the blood of the indigenous population. Normal red blood cells are disc-shaped with concavity on both sides towards the center. However, in sickle cell disease, red blood cells mutate, becoming pointed at both ends, resembling a sickle. Those afflicted might suffer from anemia and pain in mild cases, while severe cases could lead to strokes or death. Interestingly, the frequency of sickle cell traits varied among different populations in the region. In some areas, over 20% of people exhibited sickle cell traits, while in others, this rate was under 1%. Was this due to ethnic differences? Actually, it was related to malaria infection rates. Allison conducted experiments and found that individuals with sickle-shaped cells had a lower probability of contracting malaria. Since the blood samples mainly came from adult volunteers, Allison cautiously speculated whether these adults had been exposed to malaria in childhood, thereby developing immunity. With assistance from government healthcare workers, Allison further tested blood samples from minors who hadn't experienced malaria, which further supported his findings. Individuals with sickle-shaped cells indeed had a lower likelihood of malaria infection. Subsequent researchers illustrated the correlation between sickle-shaped cells and malaria incidence and how malaria impacts human evolution. Surveying the entire Eurasian continent, regions south of the Sahara in Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East are hotspots for malaria. Normally, if a person's genes mutate, producing sickle-shaped cells leading to anemia and pain, it's unfavorable. However, in regions ravaged by malaria, such as those mentioned earlier, the threat of malaria is greater, especially for vulnerable children and pregnant women, often proving fatal. At such times, human evolution operates on the principle of choosing the lesser of two evils. Those with genetic mutations carrying sickle-shaped cells might evade malaria and leave behind more offspring. You see, the mutation of normal cells into sickle-shaped cells is a survival disadvantage where malaria is absent. Yet, in areas with rampant malaria becomes a more severe survival pressure, and thus, the mutation offers a survival advantage. Individuals with sickle-shaped cells are less susceptible to malaria than normal individuals. The natural environment employs such methods via infectious diseases to influence human evolution. As the author says, for future humans, the survival advantage of a gene depends on the specific environmental conditions and technological levels. In essence, whether a gene mutation is good or bad depends on your living environment and technological level, a comprehensive evaluation. A gene mutation doesn't always equate to being detrimental. Sometimes, in addressing the same challenges posed by the natural environment, human evolution can produce different solutions. For instance, how to survive in high-altitude environments. The author mentions studies conducted on indigenous people in the Andes Mountains of South America. Compared to lowland indigenous people living at sea level, those living around 3,962 meters above sea level in the Andes had higher oxygen levels in their blood. This is because, under natural selection, the Andean people evolved larger chest cavities to maintain higher concentrations of hemoglobin in the blood, ensuring an effective supply of oxygen. However, those living long-term in the Andes also suffer from a disease called chronic mountain sickness, directly caused by an excessive number of red blood cells. After all, at high altitudes where oxygen is scarce, generating more red blood cells to aid the body in adapting to low oxygen seems the only viable option. However, despite living in high-altitude areas, residents of Tibet in China are different from those in the Andes. Tibetans are also adept at living in thin air, yet their blood contains lower levels of hemoglobin and oxygen than the Andean people. The Tibetan Plateau is the highest in the world, with oxygen levels in Tibetan areas only about 40% of those at lower elevations. How do Tibetan residents survive in such harsh conditions? Researchers discovered an interesting phenomenon. When exhaling, Tibetans have higher concentrations of nitric oxide gas compared to the Andean people. Nitric oxide facilitates blood vessel dilation, allowing more blood to pass through at a faster rate. Additionally, Tibetans have more capillaries in their muscles. These fine capillary networks distribute oxygen throughout the body. You see, with both high blood flow and robust capillary networks, despite lower oxygen levels in their blood, Tibetan residents effectively utilize it, enabling normal living in high-altitude areas. Moreover, compared to the Andean people, Tibetan residents rarely suffer from chronic mountain sickness. The reason is easily understood. Chronic mountain sickness is related to elevated hemoglobin levels, yet Tibetan residents do not have high hemoglobin concentrations. It appears that Tibetan residents hold an advantage. Are these the only two solutions humans have for surviving at high altitudes? With technological advancements, humans have amassed vast genetic data. Later, scholars exploring the Ethiopian highlands in East Africa discovered that humans had evolved a third approach to coping with high-altitude oxygen deficiency. The Amhara people reside in the Ethiopian highlands for over 70,000 years. The hemoglobin levels in the blood of the Amhara people are similar to those of Tibetan residents, relatively low. However, unlike the Tibetan residents who have both low hemoglobin and oxygen levels in their blood, the Amhara people exhibit low hemoglobin but significantly higher oxygen levels compared to Tibetan residents. You see, faced with survival pressures imposed by the natural environment, humans aren't entirely passive. Depending on the circumstances, humans can choose different paths and evolve different solutions. Part 2. The natural environment is the most fundamental factor influencing the evolution of all life. However, in comparison to other life forms, human evolution is also influenced by a unique factor, social culture. Especially with the advancement of modern society, the impact of technology, medicine, culture, and education on human evolution is not only profound but also direct and evident. It's noticeable that the impact of social culture on human evolution often alters the paths influenced by the original natural environment. For instance, in the animal kingdom, males employ various means to compete for mates, famously exhibited in the extravagant plumage of male peacocks. Biologists found that female peafowls tend to prefer males with tail feathers that have eye-shaped spots, showcasing more vibrant and colorful hues. You might not have noticed, but apart from their beautiful plumage, male peacocks also possess sharp spurs on their legs, weapons used against rivals when competing for female attention. Just as male peacocks with beautiful feathers attract attention, a similar scenario exists in humans. Researchers found that men with symmetrical faces emit more attractive scents, becoming more appealing to women. A biology professor at the University of New Mexico, Thornhill, conducted an experiment. He recruited a group of male university students as participants, requiring them to wear a brand new cotton t-shirt for 2 consecutive nights without using perfume, smoking, or consuming strongly scented food. Subsequently, these t-shirts were taken to the laboratory for female participants in the study to evaluate based on the comfort, sexiness, or intensity of the perceived scents. The results showed that shirts worn by men with symmetrical faces received higher scores. The author mentions that scent has always been an important factor for women in choosing mates. And the symmetry of a man's face is expressed in his scent through genes. Natural evolution endowed women with the ability to judge this scent. Behind this lies a simple truth: a symmetrical face often signifies normal gene expression. A person with an unusual face shape likely harbors other genetic abnormalities, which humans instinctively want to avoid in their offspring. Extensive surveys confirm that men with symmetrical faces tend to have more children to some extent. Natural selection has equipped humans with a set of courting abilities. However, with technological progress, many factors have altered this scenario. For example, social media has a very direct influence on human evolution. In recent years, online dating has become popular, directly altering the prioritization of partner selection criteria. For instance, scent, an essential factor in the absence of social media, was crucial. Only those with a compatible scent had the chance to come together. However, online dating pushes this crucial factor down the list, only coming into play when the relationship has progressed substantially and actual meetings occur. Moreover, for those who are introverted, social media is undoubtedly a blessing. Previously, they had few opportunities for romantic interactions with the opposite sex, but now they have more chances to express themselves. The author cites their own example. At the age of 24, they met a girl through social media. At that time, the author had gained some weight, a visible issue if dating in real life. However, during online communication, the author could select a more flattering picture, which helped garner more conversation opportunities. Eventually, by relying on their knowledge, culture, and humor, the author managed to capture the girl's interest and successfully met offline. You see, social media often provides more opportunities for less charismatic individuals, assisting them in finding partners faster and nurturing the next generation. Apart from social media, contraceptive technology also affects human evolution. The author mentions that hormonal contraceptives are the most common method of birth control in the United States. However, studies found that taking hormonal contraceptives could alter personal preferences for scents. Individuals who were once scent-compatible might no longer be harmonious or satisfied. Beyond romantic relationships, social culture also influences human evolution through impacting human fertility. A doctoral student conducting demographic research on Hazel Isle in Canada made a discovery. She found that among generations born between 1800 and 1939, the average age for women becoming mothers decreased from 26 to 22. This phenomenon is actually a result of natural selection. The author notes that in the absence of external influences, natural selection tends to lead humans toward earlier reproduction. This favors population growth and community strength. However, with the widespread availability of educational opportunities, increased job opportunities, the use of contraceptives, and the development of modern healthcare, the average age for a woman's first childbirth has been increasing year by year. This implies that couples will have fewer children during their lifetime. The author specifically mentions that in families with delayed childbirth, the paternal side has a greater impact on children. Scholars studied Iceland, where from 1980 to 2011, the average age of fathers at the birth of their first child increased from 28 to 33. By comparing the full genomic data of Icelandic parents and their children, researchers found that fathers transmit more mutations to their offspring than mothers do, and the older the father, the more mutations the offspring inherit. This is because, unlike female eggs, male sperm continues to be produced throughout life, and the sperm produced by older men originates from cells that have undergone multiple divisions, providing ample opportunities for mutations. What are the consequences of this? Some scholars speculate that children born to older fathers have a higher likelihood of schizophrenia and autism. The author also mentions an intriguing example. Have you heard of the term grandmother hypothesis, proposed by evolutionary biologist George Williams in 1957? He found a distinct characteristic in human reproduction unlike that of other species: grandmothers and great-grandmothers participate in caring for the third generation, which is rarely seen in other species. The reason for this unique phenomenon, according to Williams, is a method humans evolved to reduce reproductive risks. Human babies have large heads, posing significant risks during childbirth. For older women, the risks could be even higher. Thus, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's better for older women who already have children to cease reproduction and instead focus on nurturing grandchildren, which manifests in women as menopause. On one hand, this evolution spares older women the pain and risks of childbirth. On the other, if a woman dedicates herself to safeguarding her grandchildren, the likelihood of them growing up and having their own children increases, serving the initial purpose of reproducing and perpetuating genes. However, with advances in medical technology, the risks of childbirth for women have significantly decreased. The modern nuclear family model also concentrates the responsibility of raising children primarily on parents, reducing the importance of grandmothers in nurturing grandchildren, unlike in traditional societies. The author investigated the distance between grandparents and grandchildren. In the United States in 1900, 57% of residents aged 65 and above lived in multi-generational households. But 80 years later, by 1980, this percentage decreased to only 17%. Additionally, the rate of childbirth among women over 40 continues to rise. The author speculates that perhaps in the future, women might entirely cease experiencing menopause. We must acknowledge that social and cultural factors play an increasingly significant role in human evolution. Part 3, earlier, we mentioned two major factors influencing the future evolution of humans, the first being the natural environment, the most fundamental element, and the second being social culture, which alters the effects of the natural environment. Additionally, there's another significant factor often overlooked: microorganisms within the human body. The author refers to these microorganisms as companions. For a long time, people have roughly categorized microorganisms in the human body into two types: the bad guys that should be eradicated and the harmless passengers hitching a ride. However, within the microbial jungle of the human body, a more appropriate categorization would be the third type: these companions, those microorganisms that have co-evolved with humans. It's important to note that these companions aren't just the familiar probiotics. Many microorganisms, long reviled or feared by humans, actually play unexpected roles. Take the example of Helicobacter pylori, which resides in the layer of mucus lining the stomach wall and is among the few microorganisms that can withstand the extreme acidic environment of the stomach. Excessive Helicobacter pylori can lead to gastric ulcers and even stomach cancer. Therefore, doctors advocate preventing these pathogenic microorganisms. However, the author explicitly states that an increasing body of evidence suggests that Helicobacter pylori might also be contributing to human health. Citing the research findings of Martin Blaser, an infectious disease specialist in the United States, the author notes that Helicobacter pylori can help regulate gastric acid production, preventing acid reflux, and subsequently reducing the risk of esophageal cancer. Furthermore, Helicobacter pylori can interact with our immune system through specialized cells on the stomach wall, playing a role in preventing allergies and asthma. Without Helicobacter pylori, people might be more susceptible to chronic acid reflux and diseases like asthma. In fact, Helicobacter pylori has coexisted with humans for 100,000 years, accompanying humans from Africa to all corners of the world. However, in recent decades, Helicobacter pylori is rapidly diminishing. Blaser discovered that among children born in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, between 2002 and 2006, the number of individuals with Helicobacter pylori in their stomachs decreased by 75% compared to their mothers. There are many microorganisms like Helicobacter pylori within the human body, and research on them is ongoing. Until more precise research results are released, it's worth remembering Blaser's words: everyone should view the role of bacteria in human health with more nuanced perspectives. Microorganisms influence our evolution, and in turn, we continuously alter their living environment. As humans increasingly flock to cities, the diversity of microorganisms within our bodies is diminishing. Ecologists have a nearly unanimous opinion: in rural areas closer to nature, biological diversity surpasses that found in urban settings. And regions with higher biological diversity exhibit greater resilience to change. It's conceivable that people accustomed to city life are more prone to peculiar ailments. This isn't a recent occurrence. Throughout human history, whenever there have been drastic changes in human living environments, unusual diseases have emerged. Researchers led by ancient DNA expert Alan Cooper in New Zealand discovered that with the completion of agriculture and industrial revolutions, the human oral microbial community underwent two drastic shifts. During these transitions, microbial diversity decreased, resulting in an increase in bacteria causing dental caries and periodontal diseases. The author speculates that significant dietary changes contribute to alterations in the microbial population in our digestive systems. Besides urban living detaching humans from nature, certain advancements in modern society also harm microorganisms, further influencing human evolution. For instance, antibiotics effectively combat diseases like tuberculosis, measles, and hepatitis A. Paradoxically, in the latter half of the 20th century, when the incidence of these diseases decreased, new issues emerged, such as obesity, food allergies, and cancer, referred to by the author as modern plagues. Infants who received antibiotic treatment during infancy are more prone to obesity than those who didn't. Even the remarkable medical advancement of a sterile environment can lead to numerous problems. Research indicates that babies born via cesarean section are more likely to be obese and suffer from asthma or other allergic reactions than those born through vaginal delivery. Today, we have come to realize the symbiotic relationship between microorganisms and humans, but our understanding of it remains limited. It's evident that we have a long way to go in comprehending microorganisms. In 2008, the National Institutes of Health in the United States initiated the Human Microbiome Project. The primary goal was to create a detailed inventory of species living in and on healthy human bodies, named the core microbiome. Researchers focused on 5 main parts of the body: the skin, oral cavity, upper respiratory tract, small intestine, and vagina. These areas boast the most outstanding biological diversity within the human body. Here concludes the main points of this book. To summarize, is humanity still evolving? Absolutely. However, our path of evolution differs from the past. In previous evolutionary processes, humans were primarily influenced by the natural environment, which selected life forms capable of adapting to the current conditions. Yet, humans are not merely passive recipients. Faced with the same challenges, humans have found various solutions. For instance, addressing the challenge of living in high altitudes, South American Andeans evolved larger chest cavities to increase hemoglobin levels, indigenous people in Tibetan regions evolved increased oxygen utilization, and in Ethiopia's East Africa, the Amhara people have lower hemoglobin content but higher oxygen levels, similarly addressing the challenge. As society progresses, factors like technology and education increasingly disrupt the evolutionary path planned by the natural environment. Remarkably, small entities like social media have altered the logic of human courtship and marriage. Concepts of delayed parenthood and contraceptive technology have even impacted human genetics. Amid our focus on external factors, it's essential not to overlook our bodies. Within us operates a miniature world, a community of companions, the microorganisms. Diverse and numerous, ongoing research may open the door to the future of humanity. The author ominously notes in the final chapter that our planet has experienced 5 global-scale catastrophic events in history. With the loss of biodiversity due to human development, a 6th major extinction event might be imminent. However, this doesn't mean we should start living in constant fear. As of November 2021, the global population has surpassed 7.9 billion, soon approaching 8 billion. With this growth, societal issues become increasingly complex. Paradoxically, complexity often fosters innovation, just as humans strive for biodiversity. Innovation thrives in complexity. More problems mean more solutions, and it's believed that the path ahead for humanity will broaden. That concludes the essence of this book. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with friends. Let's combine wisdom and practice to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you all, goodbye.